Hey fam, I'm back with another episode today. This one's gonna be a little bit more personal, but I know that there's something in here for someone. And honestly, I just feel really called to share what came up this morning as I'm completing one book or chapter of my life. It feels like the end of a book and leading into another. I think in my last video I talked about completion, and there's a lot that comes with completion that we don't always talk about. Like there's layers and shedding that still comes with completion, because these old pieces of ourselves, right, come to surface. And even though I am whole and complete, right, we are whole and complete just as we are, these pieces from long ago are like so deeply embedded in our system that they like need to be somatically recognized and released, if you will. And so, like, for those of you that may or not know, I'm also a shamanic practitioner, so I do a lot of energy work. I do a lot of energy healing, not only for others, but very much on myself. And it was so interesting because what came up this morning I was not anticipating coming up, but I could feel this underlying emotion or feeling that was wanting to be seen, but was kind of lingering in the corner almost. I don't know how else to describe it other than that. But it's been lingering for a few days, and I keep feeling like, what is the cog in the wheel? Like, what is not allowing me to move forward? Like, there's this underlying doubt and worry and needing to control things and needing to have a plan and needing to know exactly when things are going to happen, rather than just being in flow, which is my natural state. And so I don't want to say I forced myself, but I took the opportunity this morning to sit in meditation. And I called on my higher self, my future self. I called on my womb space. I called on my team, if you will. And I was like, what is trying to come forward? What wants to come through me? What codes, what wisdom wants to be brought to the surface? And like the most beautiful thing happened. And for those of you that may or may not know, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease at the age of 16. I had suffered from a lot of stomach issues for the majority of my life, literally since I was an infant. And I talk about more of my journey in one of the first videos that I ever made for this YouTube channel, so if you feel called to, go check those out. I also have an episode that I did with my friend Court for her podcast about my journey with Crohn's disease and things like that. So you'll find things along the way if that interests you. The purpose of this today is really going to be talking about Crohn's as an invisible disease and how that actually mirrors to other things in our life, and just an overall pattern that I recognized with my Crohn's, and how that has kind of like transpired throughout my life, even up until now, and something that was asking to be seen and to be let go of today. And so Crohn's is an invisible disease, for those that may or may not know, meaning that it happens underneath the surface. It's not visible like Parkinson's or some other autoimmune diseases, perhaps. And the thing with Crohn's, because it's invisible, right, there's a lot going on underneath the surface. So a lot of times you don't necessarily look sick, or like you don't have the outward exposure, if you will, or outward symptom manifestation, the way that other diseases might. And what's interesting about this is I had a surgeon actually tell me, like, when I was at like one of the worst points of my life, he was like, you don't look that sick, like you need surgery. And I was like, have you not looked at my colonoscopy or my like doctor's report or anything? Like there's a lot going on in here that you can't see. And along with Crohn's came anxiety and needing to control and wanting to plan and so many things, because I felt like I didn't have control of my outer environment, right? Because I didn't have control of what's going on in here. And that's the key thing, is that when like our inner environment, if you guys have watched my videos, I talk about this all the time, like our inner environment is mirrored in our external. And so if there's things that we are not able to control on the inside, that's going to be mirrored on our outside, right? And so that looks like plans falling apart, things not going according to plan, wanting to control things and actually not having control over them at all. Like, we only have control about, like, really our physical vessel and our, you know, emotions and reactions and things like that. And so I've been feeling over these last few days just this underlying doubt and worry about where I'm going next and if it's really going to happen. And I realized that every single time I'm getting ready to move, this particular feeling has come up. But it was almost like it was sitting in the corner waiting to be seen, like in the shadows, if you will. It was a shadow for sure. But what I think is interesting is I always needed to have a plan. I always wanted to be in control. And I always said, because I didn't have control over what was going on in here, I was always being told what to do and when to do it, and you have to be on these meds or you're gonna get sick, and all these different things that just didn't fully really resonate with me. But it's what I was being told. And I love that the birds are going off right now. They're so beautiful. There's one like literally right in front of me. So cool. And so with all that being said, I have been feeling this underlying pattern or emotion the last few days, and I really sat with it this morning, and I called on my womb space and my team and just so many things. I was like, what wisdom, what, you know, codes, what clarity wants to come forward? And I was brought back to the day that I got diagnosed with Crohn's, and I was sitting at my kitchen table. And it's a version of myself that I've gone back to many times to work with, but this was different. I was like, why am I being brought back to this? Like, I've already worked with this. Like, I thought we were done with this. And that's the thing, is like, as you're coming to the end of a very, very long shedding, like, there's gonna be little things that pop up that you're like, I thought I was done with that. There's this one underlying thing that has literally popped up every single time I'm getting ready to travel, and it's this. Because this version of me wanted a plan and was not willing to lean into the unknown and go with the flow the way that I truly am in this now embodied state. And there's so much worry about, like, what if it doesn't work out, and all these different things. And it just like felt like such a weight was hanging on me, even though I was so at peace with the fact that I'm moving and doing all these things, and how lucky am I that this gets to be my life. I said to a friend the other day that, like, the life that, she's also a nomad, and I said, you know, the life that we live is something that people dream of, and sometimes I don't think we give that enough credit. When we're having our low moments, it's like, yeah, it's okay to have low moments, but also understand, like, we worked really hard to get here, and it's not for everybody. And I understand that. And I also know that it takes a certain type of person to be able to live the lifestyle that we live, because, yeah, things change. You have to be able to go with the flow. And there's been so much that has changed and shifted over the last year, and it's been a little hard to stay grounded, if you will. But anyways, this underlying shadow, if you will, was that of doubt and worry and needing to know a plan and wanting to know a plan. And instead of rushing her off and showing her to the light like I normally would, I just sat with her. And I said, I'll stay here as long as you need. I'm not going to force you out. Because that's the thing, when you become an alchemist and you are able to alchemize things and turn it into something else so quickly, you forget the beauty in just sitting with things. And it's not to relive the trauma or your experiences or anything like that. It's literally just to be there for them to be seen, because that version of you likely wasn't seen. And I know for me, that version of me wasn't really seen. She was just, all right, we're just gonna buck up and get the shit done. Like, that's the attitude. Like, it is what it is. We just have to deal with it, you know? And that was very much how I was brought up. And really, truly, like, I had support, but didn't feel like I had support in the way that I thought I needed support or knew I needed support. And again, I know everyone that was around me did everything they could to the best of their ability, and I truly appreciate everyone that was in my life at that time, you know? And yeah, I had to sit with her this morning, and I could feel, a lot of emotions came up. I could feel specifically where it was in my body, and it's this spot right like by my spleen, stomach area that I've had issues with for so long, and it comes and goes, and I thought it was gone, and then it came back this morning, and I was like, whoa, what is this? What is this? But what beauty is it that I'm able to sit with that and to really be so in tune with my body and so in here, in my inner world, that I was able to sit with that version of me, to let her know, like, look, everything has worked out for us. It might not have been the way that you thought it was going to, but that's okay. That's part of the unknown, and it's part of the invisible, right? The invisible isn't always bad. And that's what I realized this morning, was that this pattern was like so, like, makes me emotional thinking about it, because this pattern was like so deeply embedded. Because that version of me went through so much, and I love that version of me because she was so strong. But I also know that everything happened for a reason, and we signed up to experience that at that time for a reason, and it's so that I could come through and share this knowledge with y'all and this wisdom. This deep wisdom that, I was not ready to cry on camera today. That's a first. There's such deep wisdom embedded in my body, and I really want to share more of that with the world. I literally just said to a friend yesterday, like, my soul is tired. I've been here for thousands and thousands of lifetimes, and I've worked so hard to get to where I am, and I've been through a lot to get here, but I know that it's all for a purpose and for a good reason, and I know that that wisdom is meant to be shared with the world. And so if you're still here watching this, thank you for being here, and thank you for listening, and I hope that some piece of this message resonates with you. In fact, I know if you're here, it's always my intention that these videos make their way to whoever they're meant to. And yeah, so I sat with this version of me this morning that thought all invisible things are bad. And I had myself a moment, clearly just had another one. But it's just because there's so much beauty that comes with all of this, and I really feel like I can take a true deep breath now, whereas before I was having a really hard time being in the unknown and wanting to constantly know the plan and know where I'm going and when I'm leaving. And pretty much every single time I left anywhere last year, it was on the flip of a dime within a few days. And I know that that was all for a reason, to get me to where I am now. I really had to trust my intuition and have blind faith. And in sitting with that version of me this morning, I realized, like, she had so much strength, but I was like, it doesn't have to be hard anymore. It gets to be easy. The flow gets to be fun. And our power comes from within. We don't have to give it away to anybody else or anything else anymore. And I can feel things shifting, and I can feel things moving, and I'm really excited for what's to come. Even if I don't have all the details right in this now moment, I know that there's a plan. And that it's all gonna be okay. Because everything always works out. Everything is always okay. And I think that's the other thing, is like, when you have suffered for so long, it's really hard to, kind of pull out and like look at your change your perspective, right? and see all the good in the world and how much things can change so quickly, and how much, you know, things really are good. And as my mom always says, like, it could always be worse. And not that I ever wish that on anyone, but it's true. And to be grateful for everything that we have. I'm so grateful for my physical vessel. Like, this meat suit has been through so much, but by God, I love her so much. And I don't have the anxiety and the things that I used to. In fact, when it comes up, it just feels like so old now. And that's the beauty and the power of when you really harness your inner world, what can actually shift and change, and all the things that can happen, and all the beauty and the magic that can occur. Not all invisible things are bad. Not all invisible things are meaning that things are going to be hard. And sometimes the best things are true, real surprises. And plans where you just go with the flow. And it doesn't have to be chaos, and it doesn't have to be this really hard time. It gets to be peaceful, and it gets to be easy. And this morning I realized how much work I've already truly done on my nervous system, because, man, it's taken a lot of work, but we've done it. So I just want you to know that if you have autoimmune, or if you have anxiety, or if you have this need for control, needing to have a plan, and the unknown scares the living shit out of you, like really truly racks your nervous system, take a deeper look inside yourself, sit in meditation, do some breath work, whatever speaks to you. Our bodies hold so much wisdom. Our bodies literally heal from like a paper cut without us needing to do anything. Like, how fucking cool is that? And yeah, if you have autoimmune and you're giving your power away and you're like, nothing's fucking working, maybe it's a sign to turn inward. Look at what's going on in here. Look at what you can control. Because I promise you, there is a life of freedom out there for you. It'll probably happen when you least expect it. It's probably gonna take some work. It doesn't all have to be hard. But you have to be willing to let go. Just know and trust. Literally, it's like the best tattoo I ever gave myself. I look at it all the time and I'm like, damn. That might be my favorite tattoo. It's these little reminders to just trust. Because so many things can change at the drop of a hat. And what if it is all for the better? Generally is. It's just our silly little minds that get in the way, thinking that it's not. All invisible things aren't bad. Alright, fam. I'm gonna leave this one here. I love you so much. Thanks for being here. And I'll see you on the next one. Love you.